12 Radio. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. We are brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo on Big 12 Radio, exclusively on TuneIn, and Big 12 Studios, streaming on the Big 12 Fast channel. With Ari, I'm James, and we welcome in Scott Draper, Big 12 Chief Football and Competition Officer, live in the house, in studio, here in the Dallas area, fresh off the heels of the big schedule reveal. And we were talking yesterday about the Matrix has been out for a while. This is just putting that puzzle together.
That's right, yeah. So the Matrix, which is who plays who and where, has been set since 2023. And so my job each year is to take those matchups and sequence them into the calendar. This year we had a one-bye year, so there's 13 weeks to play 12 games. Last year there were two byes in the last two seasons. The last two were two-bye years, so there are 14 weeks to play 12 games, and that's just the way the cork in the schedule or the calendar works. And so, yeah, it's just to take those games and try to put them in the best places where they get the most exposure and competitively balance it throughout the season. There's always a rhyme and reason to where the games go and the reasons for certain games in certain places, whether it's a competitive balance, whether it's a travel issue, whether it might be a particular window that we want to elevate it given the network opportunity. So every game has a purpose for why it's where it is, and there's a lot of care and thought that goes into the front and the back end of everybody's games that they're leading into a particular matchup and out of into the next matchup. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's a year-round process. This year we had some unique things, obviously with the London game. Moving to week 3, we had to force that game in there. There was a BYU-Arizona game in week 2, Texas Tech Houston game in week 3 that were built into the schedule before it even started because of some non-conference games that moved around. Of course, then late in the calendar, the Notre Dame BYU series came out. So there's all those kind of nuances to it all that you kind of work through, and got a great team that works around us, great partners, and made it happen.
Scott, I'm not very smart. There are 52 weeks in the year, yes?
Yeah, I think, right?
So
I'm a dumb football guy, so I don't know either.
So explain this to me, the whole 12 Saturdays, 13 I don't get it. Aren't there still it's still the same year. We still have the same amount of days. Yeah,
so you back up Labor Day when there's an extra Saturday in August. That's when you get the extra week.
Labor Day.
Yeah, it's all Labor Day.
So the college football schedule is the same number of weeks this year as it was last year?
Well, it's 14.
There's one less Saturday available within the time window.
That's right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Between basically August and Thanksgiving.
Yeah, back it up from Thanksgiving to Labor Day. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Labor Day's on a...
it's late it's the first week of September, I think.
Got it.
Have I right?
So...
Don't get me to explain it because it'll.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not smart, but I don't understand. The calendar's the same.
It has to do with the number of Saturdays during the season.
Got
that's really what the answer is. And really, if you think about the work that we're all doing, the Football Oversight Committee and all of us kind of charged in the football space to look at the calendar. You've heard a lot about the calendar through the playoff, right? So. What exactly are we trying to accomplish with the season? And I think what we've seen is that 2 byes in a year helps the quality of play, helps the rest, helps certainly those conferences that are coast to coast like ours, Big Ten and the ACC, balance some of the travel. So I think we're certainly supportive of a calendar that expands somewhat to add 2 byes into the season. There's lots of challenges with that. There's lots of questions that we have to answer on the back end, like how do you solve the playoff calendar? So there's lots of work that's going on around that. But it's a nuance to it that happens every, I think, 6 or 7 years. So for the foreseeable future, we're going to be looking at a season with 1 bye.
Okay.
Unless we change it.
So it's more rare to have what we had last year with the 2 byes.
Yeah, definitely so. Yeah, definitely so. Yeah.
All right, so how do you navigate when you look at travel and scheduling road games with teams that are crossing multiple time zones? And it's been well documented that it's much tougher to win on the road when you've got to make a really long road trip. So how do you guys go through all that?
Yeah, I talked about it a little bit earlier, the games going into that 3 time zone travel or 2 time zone travel in some cases, and then really the care taken getting out of it. So you'll see when we start working through the midweeks that we're going to have, we'll start doing that in February, March with our TV partners. You'll see some of that kind of play into the sequencing of some of those games. Certainly when we built the schedule, we pre-identified, looked at some games that could be identified to move to an off Saturday, Friday game, and that essentially helps us balance some of that. You'll see some of the games in there that have buys after a long-distance trip. So definitely aware of it, definitely think through every aspect of it to make sure that there's care on both sides of the going into the game, because those that are 2 or 3 time zones, especially those coming west to east, like to come earlier. So how do are they able to come on Thursday night, for example? So there's a lot of conversation that happens around it, and for us, just try to do the best we can to balance it. But certainly 2 buys in the season make that much easier for us.
Do we know how many weekday games there will be?
Well, we have to deliver 12 at some point during the season. So where they're going to be yet, we haven't really worked through that yet.
When does that take place?
Yeah, so the process really will be February, March. We'll work with Fox and ESPN to identify those, work with our schools, and then we'll have they'll draft the games, and there'll be a conversation about where they go, and then we'll release that at some point late spring.
Is there any input invited from schools on this?
Yeah, absolutely. The input from the schools is critical, right? Because they have to feel like they can execute whatever we deliver them, not just on a non-Saturday game, but on a Saturday game as well. They've got campus challenges, they've got homecoming to deal with, they've got some cases have spring, fall break right in the middle of the season, so they want to make sure that there's care taken, where the students are. Thanksgiving weekend certainly there's a lot of conversation about Thanksgiving weekend because of lack of students, and so. Yeah, we spend a lot of time with our schools. I welcome their thoughts and input. I welcome their asks and the needs that they have, because ultimately, if they're successful, we're successful, and so it has to be a partnership. Can't deliver on everything because it's just a math problem at the end, but I do the very, very best I can to try to deliver.
Talking with Scott Draper here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, watching us on Big 12 Studios, Big 12 Chief Football and Competition Officer, going through the Big 12 schedule. The other big announcement was that the conference championship game for this year is going to be on a Friday. You guys will rotate that each and every year between that Friday night spot and Saturday morning. How will that benefit the league? We love it.
Yeah, I think it's going to when the game moves to Friday, it'll give us a unique opportunity to do some really cool and different things around the game, because when you're starting the game at 11 o'clock in the morning local time, the things that you can do on the morning of, a lot different than you can when you've got a full day and 7 o'clock central kick. So we're excited about that opportunity. We're excited to elevate the game in a whole new way. We've had different teams playing in it every year. Who knows, we'll play in it next year, but certainly if it's 2 new teams, and their ability and their fans to experience something different will be really unique for us. We'll always maintain the position as the first, whether it's on Friday or Saturday of the weekend of the Power 4 League. So I look at it as a great opportunity for the league to showcase our bandwidth of things that we can do. If you thought, a Saturday morning championship game was really cool, wait till we do a Friday night championship game at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. So we got a great team. We'll knock it out of the park as we always do. But I'm really excited about the opportunity. I think, there's some precedent from the Pac-12 did it. And so there's we understand kind of the logistical challenges, so we're baking all that into it. But certainly for us, it's just about opportunity to raise the bar even further.
What went into that decision?
Well, it's always a conversation with ESPN. They have, they brought the idea to us, and really for us, we saw it as an opportunity to do something different, certainly. But we didn't really want to give up it in total, the Saturday morning opportunity, because I think there's still balance there for us that we have to manage and understand that there's some logistical issues moving Friday exclusively. Certainly, the Cowboys are a factor in that. Their ability to execute a Thursday game some years is different. So,
Yeah, true.
it's a
Great
big
point.
puzzle, and but I think we saw the value in the opportunity, and and ESPN's a great partner, and we want to be that for them as well.
The rivalry games. It used to be like everybody had their big rivalry game that final regular season Saturday, and now it's kind of spread out. The big rivalry matchups. So what went into that? We've got like a TCU Baylor week 7, KU K State. The Holy War is week 10, which kind of highlights those matchups.
Yeah, so I think rivalry games are absolutely important, and we have those. There's no doubt about that. You mentioned many of them, but I think because the league has blended over the last few years, there's an ability now for us to create some opportunities, whether they're geographic opportunities and make them rivalry games. And I think defining what a rivalry game is there's playing for 100 years like Iowa State and Kansas State. Same thing with BYU and Utah. I think there's some of that as well. But I think creating geographic rivalries with the schools that hadn't necessarily played a lot, which thinking about West Virginia, Cincinnati is one of those. So opportunity for us to start creating that going forward. I think you'll see us as we look to the future a little bit to emphasize that. I think that's important for the league now that we're established in what we're doing. But I think as a whole, games that high leverage games that are played against a fan base that you've played every year have a lot of interest, and to stick them simply because someone else has called it rivalry weekend in that position, I'm not sure that is the best elevation for those games. I think I've enjoyed those games throughout the season, throughout the schedule, because it really creates storylines in the middle of October, for example.
Right.
I think that's an important aspect of it. There are some other rivalry games, high-profile rivalry games in other leagues that occur on Thanksgiving weekend. So we're trying to balance that as well. But I like where we are. I like what we're doing. Certainly, Arizona State has a tradition of being where they are, and we've maintained that. So it's a balance. It's not an all or nothing kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, in the same way that ESPN didn't want the ACC competing head-to-head with the Big Ten championship on Saturday night, do we need to have all of our rivalry games competing with the Iron Bowl and Michigan, Ohio State every year too? I mean, it makes total sense to me in that way. Those are intriguing matchups for a national audience that aren't necessarily going to be checking out Big 12 games all year. So to space those out over the course of the season, like there's more interest in the Holy War in Utah BYU nationally than there is in some of these other Big 12 games. So it makes sense to maybe separate that from the Iron Bowl and Clemson, South Carolina, and Florida State, and Michigan, Ohio State.
I love the BYU Utah game late October, early November in Salt Lake City in that area. Beautiful, first of all. The fan bases are energetic and they're into it, and so I think there's a balance for sure. Kansas State kind of occurs in the same time frame, so
sure. There's
definitely pros and cons to it, but ultimately for us it's just trying to make sure that every game gets the attention it deserves.
How does it work, Scott, with blending the non-conference and the conference together? Like, are you guys just completely focused on the conference matchups, and are the schools saying, okay, like BYU wants to play Notre Dame, week 7, or do you guys kind of give them a nudge? Like, how does that all mesh together?
Yeah, good question. So that's somewhat of the secret sauce of the balance of the conference's role in the schedule, right? So, generally we give them some guide rails, like make sure everything's tried in the first 3 weeks. So it helps us kind of build a schedule and create as many holes as possible to get as many conference games in as possible. But I think we found that playing some really good non-conference games in our buildings, and certainly when we go on the road and have success, elevates the league. So we encourage our schools to do as much as they can, given their particular parameters. I think they understand, hopefully from me, that whatever their challenges are, that I'm going to move heaven and earth to try to do that, and that's really what we tried to do with BYU and Notre Dame was give them, the Notre Dame constraints, and the ACC helped because of the scheduling work that the ACC does with Notre Dame. So we have a great partnership with our schools, and certainly when there's some nuances to it, we get other leagues involved, not just the ACC, but everyone has the same issue. We all, within the scheduling guys, we always talk about odd or even, right? If you have an even number of games any particular week, you don't have to worry about a bye or an odd situation. If you're odd, then you've got to bye or you got to fill it with a non-conference game. So a little inside baseball there in terms of how we build it. But all the conferences look at each other's schedule and say, I can help you here, you can help me here. How do we do that? And ACC certainly did with the Notre Dame game.
How do you feel the 12-team playoff has gone? Obviously there seems to be an impasse between what's been reported by the Big Ten and the SEC in terms of expansion. Would you, where you sit, your opinion, 16 teams for expansion, 24 teams for expansion, and what, I guess, have you advised the commissioner on as he gets together with the other commissioners for these meetings?
Yeah, so that's a commissioner question, probably on the league's position. I know he's talked publicly that 5 and 11, 16 teams is what we've preferred. We've said that since the spring. I think that gives more access to more teams, which I think is a good thing for college football. I think when teams can start the season, more teams can start the season with a legitimate shot at winning a national championship and playing in the college football playoff. That encourages them to do what they can to get there, I think. And then on the heels of what Indiana did this year and others, kind of shows there's a blueprint for it. But the playoffs, the playoff games have been really, really good. This year was really exciting. Texas Tech had a great season, ran into a buzzsaw a little bit in the Orange Bowl, but they're a great team. Texas Tech is, and their ability to reload and they got a taste for it. I think they're going to be right there again. Certainly the others that were just on the outside are reloading. And then there are teams that won 9 and 10 games last year in our league with their bowl win that know how to do it. And so our league next year is going to be really, really deep. And quarterbacks that are coming back, the players and the new coaches that we've added. I think there's going to be some surprises in the league that I think are going to be really good. And again, having an opportunity for those schools to start the season with an expanded field is a good thing. Ultimately, the commissioners have to make that call.
Yeah, but I mean, is 12 okay? Are we cool staying at 12, or would we prefer 16? And is that?
Well, I think Brett said that. Yeah, I think he's said that 5 plus 11 is our position. But again, that there's lots that go into that, certainly. And I think the commissioners are working really hard to try to figure that out. So,
is there any data or information you're equipped with that kind of helps inform you on the 12-team playoff versus the 16? I'm just curious what kind of data you're looking at in your position to inform Brett or the conference what the best move is.
Well, I think if you look at, there's lots of layers to the process, right? So there's the selection process and how many, who gets in, right? So there's a lot of debate about that. And so I think that's one aspect of it, and how can that maybe be improved to include the resumes, legitimate resumes. I think the committee got it right in the end this year. I think they would admit, and probably a little clunky getting into it, but I think, Miami obviously deserved to be in the field, given their season. They got hot at the end, and the quality of players that they had on their team, really, really good. So, it's just about the data points. I think there's lots of ways to get there. Brett's really, really smart at understanding the nuances of it all, and so I don't have to give him a lot because he gets it, certainly. But I try to give him thought starters and some data points, some historical data points on win totals and resumes and that kind of thing.
All right, Scott, as we wrap, with all this done now, do you feel just a huge sense of relief? Like, man, that was a lot of work. I'm glad it's over.
It's interesting. Some years I'm exhausted at the end of it because there's just some challenges that sometimes, like I said, it's just a math problem. some years it's not as big of a challenge. And so, this year was because of the one bye and some of the pre-scheduled games, things just kind of fell in a little bit more than in the past. But I know that every year, there's always going to be nuances to it. So I'm happy that it's out. I'm happy that our schools have it. I'm happy that we're be able to talk about it in early January as opposed to late January, early February like we've done in the past. And so that's always a goal to do it as quickly as possible so that our schools can begin to plan and build out their fan bases, season ticket holders, et cetera. So I'm happy that it's over, but certainly looking forward to the season. And believe it or not, I'm already looking at 2027. So, the process never ends.
Awesome. Well, you crushed it, man. We love the schedule. It's exciting to be able to talk about it. And thank you. Thank you for coming by and joining us in studio live. This has been awesome.
Yeah,
sorry,
great to see you guys.
Sorry, James didn't have any coffee for you.
BYOC, bring your own coffee,
Yep,
right?
that's it.
Okay.
BIOCP. Bring your own coffee
Coffee
pods.
pod.
Got it. I'll remember that next time. Thanks,
pod.
guys. Good
We
to see you.
pod. We pod on this show. Scott Draper, Big 12 Chief Football and Competition Officer here on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. He is the man behind the Big 12 schedule that is out. It is public, and it is a lot of fun here in the Big 12 Conference.